Cosmo, good to see you as always. Thanks for giving us a bit of time to come and chat about what you're doing. You're doing a really interesting, you're working on a really interesting business at the moment. So I'm fascinated to hear more about it. So let me kick off with um, a fairly straightforward question. So let's talk about you and your motivation. I mean, building a global business. I mean, it's a bit of a roller coaster. What is it that makes you, or what is it that motivates you to get out of bed every morning and keep plugging away at the process? I mean, give us your take on that.
So, Paul, as you know, I am a scientist at core.
Yeah,
So, and as a scientist, we are focusing is in general and category as to provide, you know, better service to the people, to the humanity. I work in the area of artificial intelligence. So, what is my motivations is to use AI to make the life of the people better. So, I get up in the morning and say, okay, this is my knowledge. How can I apply my knowledge so it can be useful, you know, for the people that have complex tasks, stressful job, to do a better work and to be, and to be happy. So that's the real core. Now, I wanted also to say is that while doing this, you also want to be rewarded. So nobody wants to work for free and for the glory.
sure.
So, but the monetary compensation that is behind this is not the motivation. So I always advise people, to do things that they love. The money will follow. Don't do things that make you money because your life could be miserable.
Yeah, money's a product. It's a byproduct, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. But follow your passion and the money will follow.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree with that. So, let me ask you about. I mean, obviously, we're here. We're just talking about building a global business. I mean, tell us about the moment when you thought, "I've got a business that I could take global here." I mean, tell me about that moment. When did you suddenly think, actually, I can make this into a
So
global
I,
player?
I go I go in, I go back a long time ago. So I don't want to date myself, but in 2006, we started the first company that was applying payment system through the mobile phone.
Right.
At that time, the use of mobile phone in Europe was way more advanced than in US. People, consumption of cellulars and people were, in Europe, wage way more diffusions and penetrations, in the marketplace than US. When we starting to do this type of work, we had a hard time to find people that know how to write software for mobile phones. I
Right.
mean, there were not that much mobile apps as there are today. So we started to look where we could find talent. And we realized that there was some talent that we had interactions with in Spain. So we said, okay, let's hire those people in Spain. And then we thought, okay, but we still need support because we were doing the first application for the city of San Francisco to pay parking meters, through the phone. And the parking
Okay.
meters in
Okay.
San Francisco were running from sometimes 7 o'clock in the morning to midnight, and sometimes in some area, even in some parking lot, even for 24 hours. And we had to find a way to support this. And so we thought, okay, we can support something from California, but then we can support something from Europe, and then we find, okay, how are we going to support like across the clock? So we hired people in India. So suddenly we were a micro company. When I say micro company, I don't think we were more at that time than 25 people,
Mm.
but had a global operations
Yeah.
that would allow us to run a service 24 hours because we had staff people, in Europe and staff people in India as well as, in North America. Uh, that was I think, the first example on, how small company can be global as well
Yeah.
and fight the big guys. In fact, I'm going to refer to a former chief economist of Google called Hal Varian, who in 2007 wrote a piece on the New York Times telling about how small organizations can be global
Yeah.
and mentioned the work that I was doing. Uh, so the the that experience has given me the opportunity to look to back and look ahead and say you don't need an army of people to build a global
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
Uh, Specifically today, with the reach that you can have, through social channels, through podcast, uh, through partnership, you can be a global corporation, serves a global market,
Yeah.
uh, without being extremely huge and big. In fact, we do have, as of today, my company has clients in Europe, has clients in Asia, has clients in North America, and we are a very small organizations compared to the size and the support and the global reach that we have.
Yeah. I mean, that phenomenon of small companies going global is a relatively new thing, isn't it? Because to a greater extent, it's facilitated by digital technology. It's about technology like this, Zoom. You can talk to people easily on the other side of the planet, can't you?
It is. It is. So obviously, the technology has been the enabler
Yeah.
of the fact that the reach out into global market, the reach out in global market, the diffusions of the technology, starting from the internet, but any other applications that has facilitated communications, across individuals has had a significant impact in how small organizations can be global as well. And I would say, sometimes small organizations can even serve better the global market because they are more agile, to the
Yeah.
changes
Yeah.
that applies in the global environment.
Yeah.
Specifically, you are more agile to support localizations, and customizations that sometimes are required
Yeah.
by entering in markets that are outside of your zone, and so it's much simpler for small organizations to morph and adapt quickly.
Sure. So you've talked about that small businesses can be, or small companies in this context can be more agile and can outrun the competition, if you will. I mean, tell me. I mean, you obviously you've run a business previously that went global. You're running a different business now. How did you work out how to take it global? I mean, what was your approach when you said, okay, this could be a global company. I want it to be a global company. How did you get from A to B, if you see what I mean? I mean, how did you approach that?
So think about when I was looking at, let's say, take a company, I was looking at solve a problem, right? So my first thing when I thought, for example, that the payment systems will go mobile. This is way
Right.
before Apple has put the iPhone into the market, right? And I also thought that the way people were paying for parking was obsolete. I live in the core
Yeah.
of Silicon Valley, and you still had to use coins to pay for parking.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, okay, this is like insane. Not only is insane, but it's inefficient. People had the wrong idea that municipality makes money off of parking ticket, which is not true. If people would have conveniently pay for parking, they would have had a much better services, and you would have had more money without upsetting the people, because you get upset when you get a ticket, right?
Yeah.
But do you know what is the probability, at that time in San Francisco to get a ticket? It was 5%. So which means that 95% you get away with it.
Okay.
Now in San Francisco at that time, you know, the parking for an hour was $2.50.
Right.
Now I don't know, probably $7, but at that time was $2.50. So think about if you are paying, if you are paying uh, all the time, it's $250. Right? So you're paying $250. Now, because it's 5% of probability of the ticket, and the ticket was only $40, then you will have a fine of $200. So I wrote a paper to say why you should never pay parking in San Francisco,
Really?
because you actually have a gain of $50,
Yeah, yeah.
because you out of the four tickets that you will get, you're saving 250, but if you pay $200 in ticket, that's your gain of $50. At that point, the city increased the parking fees in a way. There was like $3 an hour. So you pretty much get basically the fines were more expensive than the cost of the parking. But again, that problem was a global problem. It's not a problem related to the city of San Francisco. It's a problem related to London. It's a problem
Yeah.
related to Milan. It's
Yeah.
a problem
Yeah.
related to New Delhi. So suddenly you're starting to realize, okay, here is a problem that I can scale across the world, right? The same problem duplicates multiple
Yeah.
times,
Yeah.
and the only thing I have to do is just to convince the people that I can make more money. In this particular case, where the municipalities, they can make more money by doing so. Yeah. To be honest, we were too early for adoptions,
Right.
right? But we had a great success in the city of San Francisco. But the company that unfortunately did not make, and this is one of my story that I generally take to say is where passion generally that allows you to monetize, but you open and you pave the road for somebody else, right? Today, paying through your cell phone, it's mainstream.
Yeah. It's everywhere.
Nobody's questioning the fact that you can pay with your cell phone. At the time when we started, that obviously there were some technology constraints and things where it was not mainstream. People still have phone that were not smart, and it was very difficult. People, the usage of sending a text message for paying, or it was not that well received. It was still some security concern, and but again, somebody starting an idea and then somebody else monetize and capitalize on that. I'm glad to say that I started. I didn't monetize, but at least I can see that the vision, today has been fully realized. And this goes back to, in a certain sense, to the globalizations of the problem. How you are looking at a problem, and how this problem becomes of global reach. And as today, for example, I work, in the space of contact center operations.
Right.
So the brand, it's a US European brand, but most of the contact center today are located in the Philippines, in South America,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
India.
Yeah.
So suddenly you are empowering your solutions to go from customers that are in England, to a people who is in a remote village in India, who pick up the phone and try to solve your problem, right? So suddenly you have a global reach. You have a global reach where you are involving in transactions people that are across the globe.
Yeah, I mean, very exciting, I would have thought. I mean, one of the things that's interesting is about this phenomenon that's happening, which is small team or relatively small teams building big global footprints. I mean, my perception of that is that the role of the CEO is quite a tough gig. I mean, how do you see, what's your take on being the CEO in that context?
So, you know, uh, uh, basically, more than being a CEO, you are the chief of all the trades, like the jack of
Chief
all the
Everything
trades.
Officer.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
are the chief everything officer, as we had discussed in previously. so you are, looking at every aspect of the business, which in a certain sense, helps you to understand and minimize the number of mistakes and makes corrections quickly, right? Because
Yeah.
now that if you do something wrong, you can react pretty fast and correct fast, right? And before if you're in large organizations, if you make a mistake, before that mistakes gets realized and then gets escalated to the top, it might take sometimes at that time becomes irreparable. So in case of being a CEO of small organizations that has a global reach, the advantage obviously uh, is the fact that you can act fast, you can correct fast, which when you are pushing innovation, sometimes you need to understand how to make quick corrections in a way that innovations gets adopted and gets absorbed by the people who are using it. Obviously, there is a counterpart, and the counterpart is that the team has to work much harder,
Yeah.
but not necessarily also smarter. You don't have if you hire the right talent, that you can basically provide much better services than if you have an army of people. I always make a joke that and you being a British that says, well, who the Germans and the Nazi had 1,000 people trying to decode the Ally coding system,
Mm.
and the British had Alan Turing and three others,
Yeah.
and who ended up to win.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the story is that small team sometimes perform much much better than
Yeah.
big
Have a
teams.
big impact, don't they? Yeah.
Yeah, they have a big impact. I mean, innovation always comes from small teams. Things gets invented by three, four guys, five guys. They don't get invented by a million of people or thousand of people
Yeah.
sitting around in a room and having a discussion.
Yeah. And in that, given that you're the CEO, I mean, do you enjoy that? I mean, like I said, it appears to me to be quite a tough gig. Do you enjoy it? Do you thrive on that? Is that the right
I
thing
do
to do?
I do enjoy it. I was joking with my team today that I don't know in which time zone I am.
Yeah.
I flew to Boston from San Francisco Monday morning, very early. I get to Boston. I had conferences and visit some customers. Then I had a call with Europe in the morning. Then I flew back here on Wednesday, and then on Thursday I had a 2 o'clock a 2 o'clock San Francisco time call with Europe. So it's that there are some disadvantage that to say it's okay. You work around the clock,
Yeah.
but I would say I do enjoy because as this game, I'm doing something for which I'm very passionate about it. Doing something that help the humans to be more productive with reducing the stress and improving the well-being of the human race. So that's something that certainly enjoy.
Sure. And in terms of your well-being, I mean, I'm interested. One of the things that is interesting about the role of the CEO in those contexts is the ability to be resilient. I mean, there's to an extent you go from problem to problem, don't you? The problems that land on your desk are the problems that nobody else can sort out, which means you go from one problem to another problem, which can be pretty demoralizing sometimes. I mean, how do you stay focused? How do you stay motivated? How do you keep your
And I, yeah, so I stay focused by also empowering the people who are in the team to make their own decisions and
Right.
own their own mistakes. I think the role of the CEO and I think the most important quality of the CEO is to hire people that are better than him,
Yeah.
so you can minimize your impact. So I'm always and as I say, it's coming from academia. One of my secrets was hire the best graduate students or have the best graduate students to work with me. And what was my trick? At the beginning of the academic year, I asked the students to come at my house and I make a dinner.
Right.
And so, like, the people, so I'm trying to trick and bribe the students by offering a good Italian food, right? So
It obviously worked. It
having
obviously worked.
a selection and having a selection of students who would, smart students who could come and say, "Hey, can we work together on this research topic?" So I want to translate this into business. I always trying to hire people from which I can learn. So I'm always trying to hire people that says, okay, would I work for him, and not the other way around, right? And I think that allows you to minimize the stress. On the other hand, I am, and I'm open here, I am an avid cyclist. So after I have a couple more meetings, but after this, I'm going for a bike ride. And
Mhm.
the bike ride helped me to build the stamina, in
Yeah.
order for me to basically be able to do my job.
Sure. And the team, you mentioned about the team. I mean, obviously, when you've only got a small team and you're trying to build a big footprint, you've got to have a team that performs at an optimum level. I mean, and which is difficult to do on a consistent basis. I mean, how do you build a team? How do you make sure that they stay focused? How do you make sure that they perform, that they deal with problems effectively? I mean, that team building process is,
Uh,
pretty important.
I you are absolutely correct. And I think the most important thing when you build a team is to make sure that the chemistry is across the members of the team.
Yeah.
So you don't want to create jealousy. You don't want to create, a way where, people are, generating, sub cliques within the organizations, and they, have different agenda. So one thing that, I've always been fond of has been to invoke a very, transparent communications. Tell the people the good, the bad, and the ugly, that
Yeah.
happen to the organization, especially when you are in a startup environment. There are things that, they don't go exactly your way. Like there are things that you had planned in a way, but unfortunately, the things have gone in another way. You think that you're going to win a deal and you're going to lose a deal, right?
Yeah.
But reflect on this and have an understanding to say, guys, that is, race that we lose, a race that we win, a race that we drop because we don't want to waste time. And I think people, when you are getting the people and you are transparent with the people, and you are open to the people, and you don't create an organizations with motivations, envies, and hate for each other, or disliking. I don't say hate is a big word, but disliking of each other. I think that is the key. The key, to succeed in the organization. Then it turns out also that some of the people that I have worked in the past, that have worked with me in multiple companies. So that also helps because you know how people works, you know their capability, you trust them, and so while I tend to work with some core elements, I also trying to hire people that are fit within the core groups, that are share the same values, that they have the same type of behavior, where they are open, and we openly say things like nobody gets offended, even if, I mean, within the boundary of course, I mean, no, I don't accept like insults, or I don't accept swearing, but you can challenge me, you can challenge your colleague, you can disagree on things, and that's what I like, the fact that everybody is able to disagree, and everybody's able to express the opinion, because I don't know everything. If I knew everything, I could do this on my own alone, right? I don't know everything, so I need to rely from people who know way more than I do in given field. So empowering the people to have responsibility within their knowledge, to take their autonomous decision, and everybody makes a mistake. I make a mistake, my colleague make a mistake, but we own it, and we honestly say, hey guys, I did a mistake. I thought this would have been a good idea, and it turns out to be not a good idea. So
Mm.
let's move on. I mean, again, the thing says realize fast that you are on a path on a successful path, and be able to backtrack and find where success is.
Mm. And when you're, when you're working with the team, I mean, how do you? I mean, you've also got a lot of risk. I mean, you're in multiple jurisdictions, a small team. I mean, and there's one issue about you making mistakes or the team making mistakes. What about when things go wrong externally and you've got to deal with other stuff? I mean, you've not got a lot of resource. I mean, how do you deal with the challenges that, if you like, the external
Well,
environment throws at you?
so we try to solve the problem, these externalities that might
Mm.
occur, through partnership. Right.
Okay.
So ideal is we have a core team, we are focusing on the technology. But if you build a go-to-market strategy, let's say we build the go-to-market strategy in a market where we do not have a presence, we're trying to find a partner that can represent our interest, and they
Yeah.
can, deal with those type of issues that might come. Right. So uh, there are smart ways to do this. Obviously, if you're in organizations like Google, Microsoft, or a big organizations, you have your own stuff. So we're trying to cope with those problems by the fact that we are partnering with local organizations that understand, and that if something happen in their jurisdiction, they can help us to navigate the turmoils and solve the problem.
Yeah. And those partnerships, I guess, are pretty fundamental, aren't they? Well, you've touched on partnerships in different jurisdictions. I mean, how do you when you if you're thinking about going into, let's say you're thinking I'm going to go into Latin America. I mean, how do you approach the kind of market entry piece? I mean, do you follow clients who say, I've got do you decide, well, I'm going to find a partner there, I'm going to put resources, I'm going to appoint staff? I mean, how do you
So,
deal with the market entry process?
so generally, I mean, the first step in opening a market is to trying to find a personal relationship,
Yeah.
with an organization that it's some sort of a leader, in the market where you want to be, in the region where you want to be. So, and then establish through that personal connections, establish a relationship which is based on trust. That I want to, I was basically telling, yesterday to one of my clients to say, hey, nobody gets fired for buying IBM,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Nobody gets fired for it. So, but your job is on the line if you take a risk with an organization that is not IBM, that is much smaller, that has. So the only reason that you can succeed if you can show that they can trust you.
Mm.
And trusting you means that, if they call you, that you know that you will do everything possible to solve the issue and overcome the challenges that you might face. So that's step number one. Once that is established, right, then we can start to work within the organizations, in a jurisdictions where we don't have a presence. The second step is to find a local partner, because local partners understands the language,
Yeah.
local partners understand the culture.
Yeah.
And I think it's a matter of fact of you cannot impose your cultures, in a place where things in business gets done differently. And so you have really to trying to find the right partner. Who is the right partner? So we do research. Who is the right partner? We're starting to talk. We explain and the business opportunities, and we say, hey, we have no interest. We have an interest, but we want to build this with you, or to go to market with you. Here is your sandbox, and sandbox is this region, this area,
Mm.
this verticals. Can you think that this will be something that will benefit your business? And so we find the partners that now can take us on, and with a proof point that we have started, but then can scale, from where we have started and allow us to scale in market where otherwise, in order for us to scale, would have taken forever.
Yeah, yeah. And when you're on that journey, I mean, how do you? I mean, one of the things that's interesting is if you like keeping a match between the capabilities of your business, the proposition that you offer, and the needs of the market. And of course, customers' expectations change. People want different things. I mean, how do you keep track and make sure that those things fit together, given that you're in lots of different markets and customers evolve and change and their views and perspectives change? I mean, how do you keep
Correct.
track of all that?
So that's an excellent point. So first of all, we try to build a product that have a universal validity, right?
Okay.
And at least the core product has universal validity. That's where partners are coming in because you can offload the localizations and those changes, to the partners, and you can say, hey, here is the core, right? Then you can work on the customizations and on some changes that might be specific to the constituents where you are. If those changes, however, have an impact to the core product, we like to know because at that point we need to revise the core product.
Mm.
So what we do is we show what the core product is. We empower partners for localizations and local changes and business needs that are local, but we are taking back feedback that basically have an impact into the core product that we can update the core product, keep the core product at the frontier of innovation. So
And
that's
how,
basically the model that we do.
yeah, and how often does that happen? I mean, is that you, does that usually happen in a jurisdiction, or does it happen in some jurisdictions and not others? I mean, how often does
It's
that
some it's
localization
some
thing kick
jurisdiction
in?
localizations always happen. It's funny. It's like I just had today discussions with the partnering nations about some issues of localizations. That's always happened. But localizations to me it's the least of my worries because I know that I have local partners who can take care of this, and then the core product has been built to scale,
Right.
for localization. What is eventually the challenge? The challenge is if the core product that has to change drastically because changes are coming and then impact your core product. At that point, it means that your core product really is not a core product because if it was a core product, then it had enough validity. They don't have to have major impact every 2 weeks. Of course, there are major impacts, but if the major impact generally are every 6 months and goes with major cycle release, you always improve the product, always improve the technology. I would say in this particular case, we're looking how to improve because AI is moving at the speed of the light, and so you
Yeah.
need to be on top of this. But if you build the architectures in a way that can support changes, and then you can deploy the changes to the core product, with very less resistance than was before.
Yeah, I mean that was one of the things that was going through my mind as you were speaking was about the impact of AI because it's really developing quickly, isn't it? I mean, it's only been as it were in the public consciousness for 18 months, 2 years, and it's already evolved. I mean, is that creating problems for you in terms of your core product, the way AI is transforming both how things are done, but also customers' expectations?
Yes. So what is transforming is more the customer's expectations. What we have changed, of course, we have changed some elements of the core product, but we also have architecture of the product in a way that we can switch models and we can replace models if something better comes up. right? So that we can stay at the frontiers of innovations. What has changed dramatically, it's the business model. People
Okay.
today, what people today, specifically in the AI, are willing to do, are willing to pay on consumptions and outcome. So the traditional SaaS business model, that you pay for the platform, you pay for the service, it's almost gone.
Yeah, it's
Right?
evolving
Today,
rapidly,
people
isn't it? Yeah.
today people are saying, I'm willing to pay if I see the benefit. I'm willing to pay if I see the benefit. So what has changed? What has changed, and what we are now preaching to say, hey, if buy our solutions, we will charge you on an outcome base,
Mm.
right? And we will charge you on an outcome base. And sometime, like, people come back, this is the outcome, and they realize they're paying too much, and then they say, oh no, man, I'm paying too much. Well, if this is the outcome, this is the outcome. But I have to say is that the things have changed. Things have changed, especially people want defined results, right? People want to make sure that if they take a risk, there is a huge reward at the end of this, right? And they want you to share that risk and reward.
Yeah.
So that's today, it's the new AI business model. It's really outcome based and consumption.
And how do you, I mean, the other thing that's in a market that's evolving so quickly, how do you stay ahead of the competition? How do you keep an edge? I mean, do you are you I mean, are you one of these people that are paranoid about what the competition are doing, or are you, I mean, tell us
So, of
about that.
course, no, I would say, am I paranoid? Well, I would say I'm not paranoid. I'm informed, right? You know, um, I do think that there's a lot of smart people out there, but I also think that sharing ideas, even with your competitors, and talking, will allow you to understand how to make improvements. As a small company, we always think about what is our edge. What we can say is we're doing different from anybody else. What we can say is we have a defensible mode. So we always think about, okay, how we can do this in a way that can be faster, cheaper, and better, right? And honestly, I have to say is that being a small global organizations, sometimes you are getting smarter than people who have a lot of resources.
Yeah.
And so, because you think a little bit deeper, on how to do things in the most effective way, because you literally are resource constraints, right? So I would say that one of the advantage of being small is also the capability that you come with much better idea, than where
And you
large
can adapt, and you can
organizations.
adapt quicker, can't you? You can learn
And
quicker.
you can adapt quickly. You can adapt quickly. That's the case.
Yeah. When you think about the kind of competition that you face and the way that AI is changing the market, I mean, what are the sort of things that keep you awake at night? Are there particular things that bother you, or are you, fairly laid back about it?
What bothers me sometimes is the hyperbole that people generate, right?
Mm.
Through absurd, marketing campaign that are years ahead, and put everybody in a bad spot, because then companies are not able to deliver it, and then everybody gets the blame. So to me, it's more, the announcement that sometimes I see of people throwing name there, without knowing what they're talking, what is possible.
Yeah.
Science is science, and there is a lot of things that are possible, but there is still a lot of things that we need to test and we need to experience. And even in this framework where everybody thinks that agentic AI are going to replace humans, my my strong belief is that that not will be the case. It's not AI is going to replace human, but again, people who do not use AI will be replaced by people who use AI,
Yeah.
which is basically it's today. my mantra to say, hey, you need to use AI, not because, to remove the value of the humans, but because, if you don't use AI, somebody you will use it will replace
Yeah,
you.
somebody will eat your lunch. And there's this phrase going around at the moment about being an AI first business. Is that true for you?
It is true for us, but again, everybody today calls themselves AI, right? So
Yeah.
it's like one time everybody would have called themselves put a .com, and everybody's an e-commerce company.
Yeah.
The question again, you have to go into the details. What you are doing that is really AI, what you are doing, because some people have a lot. If you ask people to say, define me what AI is, you will have inconsistent answers,
Yeah.
and you will have different answers. So you ask 100 CEOs who brand themselves as an AI company, and you can say, okay, what AI is for you, and you will have 100 different answers.
Yeah.
And the questions to me is, okay, what we doing that is AI based? What we doing that is machine learning based? What we doing that applies some type of algorithms that are part of the statistical curriculum that today people brand as AI. But to me, there is a huge difference. Okay, what AI does, what other type of techniques do. I mean, we use a mix of that, not necessarily what we're doing in our product. It's AI specific.
Mm. I mean, I had an
It's AI
interesting
specific.
Yeah, I had an interesting conversation with somebody the other day who made a really interesting point. They said it's not about how you use AI, it's about how your customers use AI to do the things that you used to do for them for themselves, which I think is an
Correct.
interesting one because it's not just us that are evolving, it's our customers that are evolving as well. I mean,
I just got a comment yesterday from a team using our product, and they say, "Hey, I found fascinating because now I have a immediate report of what has been my conversations, immediately on the screen with exactly the key points that
right.
I need to stress. So I don't have to go and write these key points, and saves me minutes, right? Into this, it saves me time. So I think that is so. Somebody says I have 3 alerts at second, 3 alerts a second, and I need to look at these 3 alerts. But today the AI gives me a preemptive analysis of which alerts requires more attention.
Mm.
And before I had to go sequentially, and of course, like looking 3 alerts a second, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
And
Yeah.
now you have something that says, okay, this is noise. Those alerts are completely noise, right? And you need to focus here, and those are the one who requires those top five. The top three are the ones that requires the urgency. So that to me as value, right? That's to me is okay. I'm providing, and that's the way the company use AI to facilitate their business.
Mm. Mm. So when you look back on the journey that you've been on, I mean, I think you're operating in an interesting space, in a really interesting moment. I mean, when you look back on that journey, I mean, what would you say you've learned from the experience? Because I mean, you've come a long way, haven't you?
Journey are it's always people think about that you know that you start, and then when you start it's a downhill race. That's not the case, right? You have days that have huge uphill, and you have days that everything seems to be going smooth, and then the next day you're going again, you are on you're going uphill, and you have to climb the Everest. So you're looking back and says, should I have done something different, right? Should I have done things different? Everybody learns by mistakes. I think that everybody has to admit that there's been mistakes. But you know, would I do something different? Yes, I would do something different. Of course, now with the experience that you have had, something you would have done something different. You made a mistake there. I would have corrected. But again, everybody learns from mistakes, and we move on. I would say the journey has always been has always been a good journey for me. I generally say that startups is not for everybody.
Yeah.
You need to be an eternal optimist that
Yeah.
even when everything looks black, you can see, the dark. I mean, the lights, the light
Yeah.
dot in the wall, and you can say, "Oh, the exit is there. We can go that in that directions." So not everybody has the stamina, has I would say the guts to be a startupper. So that there's nothing wrong, right? But if you are taking that journey, you need to know that you need to keep your optimism intact, because
Yeah.
even when I thought everything was going belly up and will never had success, I was optimistic that things would have changed or turned around if we'd have made the right move, and then that's happened to be the case.
Yeah. Yeah, it's staying positive and staying focused, I guess, isn't it? Even on the on the worst days. If you were going to give yourself, with the benefit of your hindsight, if you were going to give yourself, if you were starting again and you were to give yourself one piece of advice, I mean, what would that piece of advice be?
The piece of advice is, you know, look at first of all, if you start on something, look at the don't look at the technology, look at the problem. Okay,
Yeah.
do you have what is the problem that is bothering you? Okay, what is a problem that you think is bothering the world that you think you will solve? And then look how you can do better than what is done today.
Yeah.
So my piece of advice has always been, okay, I don't look, I don't look to say, hey, I like AI, I want to do something in AI. So I don't look how to say, how can I use AI to do this? No, I do the other way around. Okay, what is the problem that today I think needs
Yeah.
huge improvement? What is the problem for which the people will pay something if you solve it?
Yeah.
And then what is the best way to solve the problem? So that's my piece of advice to me. If I had to start something, I always had this type of reference point, but it's my piece of advice that I can give to anybody who wants to start in this journey, which again, it's not a simple journey. It's a if you are an optimist, don't do it. But my piece of advice, before looking on how can you apply your technology that you have developed, look, the other way around. What is the problem that you think, you know, that it's in need of a solution?
Yeah. I mean, it seems to me it's got to be a problem that you care about. Otherwise, you won't stay
Okay.
motivated enough to
Yeah,
stick at it because it takes time to solve these things, doesn't it?
there is takes time to solve this. You have something you have to be motivated. There's something that you have to have passion for it. I can give you an example. I'm a friend of mine who started the company that builds, a way to monitor your heart rate and do an EKG, 24/7, because the dad, was a cardiopathic, but nobody could figure it out what he had it. And so he had the motivations to do something because he didn't want to lose his dad.
Yeah.
So there is always a motivations behind something. I mean, I do believe that that in my case, customer service needs to be rebuilt. There was a survey done by Gardner some time ago that 20% of the respondents says that they do prefer to spend one day in jail than talking with somebody at customer center. So you can think
Really?
about that is that
That's
is a real
terrible.
problem. That
Yeah.
is a real problem that people feel so frustrated, and I
Yeah.
and I had that experience. I felt frustrated with a contact center of the large organizations that probably it's one of the top three company today in market cap. And I said, okay, how can it be possible? There is a better way to do this, and
Yeah.
here we go, right? So that's what's my motivation.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, Cosmo, that's fantastic, really, and it's a testament to human creativity that people, constantly want to try and fix problems like that, and they're never ending, aren't they?
Yes.
I mean, those sorts of things are, you fix one problem, another problem pops up, doesn't it? So it's never ending, really. It's a never ending journey,
it's
I
it's
think.
it's a never ending. It's a never ending. But you stay on the top. You're trying to leapfrog your competitors. And I have people that they do something similar and things which I exchange ideas, and I don't find. I think that. innovation. If you are putting yourself into a room, you will never be a good innovators. But if you are exchanging ideas, even with people who can steal your ideas, that's basically what motivates people, to create and innovate and be smart.
Yeah. Cosmo, thank you for sharing that story. I mean, it's been a fascinating. I mean, it sounds like you've been on a really interesting journey, and I suspect you've got an interesting future. Because you've got lots to go out there. So thank you for taking a bit of time out.
Thank you so much, Paul, for inviting me to speak at your podcast. I hope this will be a great success, and looking forward to more interactions and more chats.
Likewise, look forward to it. See you soon, Cosmo. Bye bye.
See you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.